Greatness is never built in comfort, it is forged in struggle, polished by perseverance, and revealed only to those who refuse to give up when life demands surrender. Ryan stood at the edge of the worn-out running track, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Sweat dripping down his face even before he had taken his first lap. History. He was dream with clear he wanted to be a professional runner, the kind that made crowds roar in stadiums, the kind that inspired kids to believe in themselves. But his reality was far different. He had no coach, no fancy shoes, no access to the training facilities that others enjoyed. All he had was an old pair of sneakers, a half-broken stopwatch, and a heart that refused to give up. Beats every morning before sunrise. When most of the city was still asleep, Ryan was out on that cracked running track. The cold bit into his skin during winter mornings, and the summer sun scorched him until he felt his legs might collapse. But still, he ran. Day after day, failure after failure. His times were never good enough. His body ached. His friends laughed at him for chasing what they called a foolish dream. You'll never make it. Ryan, one of them told him once, shaking his head. People like us don't get to that level. Better focus on something realistic. Ryan smiled faintly but said nothing. He had learned early that dreams were not built on what people said, it was built on what you were willing to endure. 2. One evening, after yet another disappointing practice, where his stopwatch showed a time far slower than what he needed, Ryan sat on the dusty ground, staring at the fading sunlight. Doubt crept into his heart. Maybe his friends were right. Maybe he wasn't good enough. Maybe he was chasing something impossible. But then, a memory surfaced, his late father's voice. Son, the world will always try to convince you of your limits. But your limits are not written by others. They're rewritten every time you refuse to quit. Those words burned in his heart like fire. He stood up, wiped his face, and whispered to himself, tomorrow, I'll run again. And the day after that, and the day after that. That night marked a turning point. Ryan stopped running just to chase times. Instead, he started running to prove to himself that he could push beyond yesterday's limits. He created his own training program, reading books from the library, studying videos of great runners, and building discipline into his daily routine. He changed his diet, sacrificed late nights, and kept a journal of every run, every mistake, every tiny progress he made. Weeks turned into months. His body grew stronger. His stamina improved. And little by little, the stopwatch began to show numbers he had once thought impossible. Then came the day of the city qualifiers. The stadium was filled with young athletes, many of them wearing bright new uniforms, their coaches shouting instructions from the sidelines. Ryan stood among them in his worn sneakers and plain t-shirt, his heart pounding not from fear, but from determination. He didn't care about the noise, the comparisons, or the doubts. He only cared about the lane in front of him. The whistle blew. He launched forward. For the first few seconds, the runners beside him surged ahead. But Ryan remembered his training, his father's words, and kept his rhythm steady. By the halfway mark, he started gaining ground. The crowd noticed the boy with no coach, no fancy shoes, pushing forward like a storm. By the last stretch, his legs burned as if fire was running through his veins, but he refused to slow down. He crossed the finish line with every ounce of energy left in him. For a moment, he couldn't hear anything but his heartbeat. Then the announcer's voice cut through, and qualifying for the state championship, Ryan Carter. Tears filled his eyes as he fell to his knees. He had done it, not because he had better resources, but because he refused to quit. The story didn't end there. At the state championship, Ryan didn't win gold, but he finished in the top 5. For him, that was a victory larger than any medal. Because he realized something powerful: success isn't about being the best immediately. It's about becoming better than you were yesterday. Whose journey began inspiring others. Kids from his neighborhood started joining him in his morning runs. People who once mocked him began asking for his advice. He became living proof that consistency beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. Years later, Ryan finally stood on a national stage, representing his country in a major competition. As the national anthem played before the race, he closed his eyes and whispered to himself the same words that had carried him from the cracked running track to the grand stadium. Limits aren't written, they rewritten. And when he ran that day, he wasn't just running for medals or fame. He was running for every dreamer who had ever been told they weren't enough. He was running to prove that the human spirit, fueled by perseverance, is unstoppable. Remember this: success is not about how fast you achieve your dream, but how fiercely you refuse to quit when the road is long. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to Motivoons, where powerful stories of perseverance and growth fuel your journey to success.